Austin, and I'm a filmmaker.
In this area here in Kudata 11, Mozambique, I find some challenge of the poacher.
And about a month and a half ago, I came to this classroom and did the remote first aid training course with the instructor, Catherine. And we sort of went through everything. And I even at the time asked her, you know, when something happens, I'm skeptical as to whether I'm gonna know what to do. I'm gonna remember all these things that we've learned in 4 hours. And she said, no, don't worry, it'll all come back to you. And jump forward about 3 weeks, I went on a film shoot for a German company in Far North Queensland. We were doing a gold series. We were about 2.5 hours from Mariba, so pretty remote, quite isolated as to where we were. On the 6th day of filming, we were shooting some content that I needed to go and film guys taking scrap metal, moving it to a dump site, and back and forth. And I climbed in the vehicle with 2 of the blokes and we drove to this dump site with some scrap metal on the back. I climbed out and started filming the gents as they were offloading. And I had noticed something in the grass, but I didn't really take account of what exactly it was. But I ended up, and I didn't know this, I ended up right next to this thing that I'd seen filming the vehicle. And the guy on the back, he had 2 choices. He could go off the tailgate, and that meant I would have turned right and followed him that way and been fine. But he, for some reason, went left and climbed over the railing near the passenger door. And I turned to follow him, and I felt something nick my ankle. And I lifted my leg, and I was like, hey, ow, what happened there? And then I looked down at my shoe, and there was a piece of white flesh, quite big. And I thought, whoa, this is probably not supposed to be there. That should be inside me. So I quickly popped my camera down, sat down, and I think I even remember saying to the blokes, I'm not sure if I actually want to look at this, because I kind of knew when I saw the blood starting to pool around my long pants that something wasn't quite right. So I rolled my pants up, and there was a fairly large, I guess, a laceration from an old rusted fence picket that had been welded to a table, 4 of them. And the grass had grown over all of this, so you couldn't see it. And because it must have been decades of being used, the bottom had fanned out and created a razor sharp edge. And it just sliced right through my pants and right through my flesh on my shin, all the way. Sat down, rolled up my pants, and this fairly deep, fairly long gash was right there in my face. And I was like, whoa. And then all of a sudden, all the things that Catherine had mentioned to me sort of came rushing back to my head, and I was like, okay, first thing I need to do is take stock of what happened. Like what, as she said in the course, like you forget things, memory starts to fade. So first thing I did was take out my phone and just do a little, basically an incident report. Not very glamorous, not very like action man, but I took my phone, did a selfie incident report of what happened, filmed my leg, showed the gash, and then I walked into it because it's in long grass. I sliced my leg open. It's fairly deep all the way to the bone. Luckily it's on the bone, so there's no nerve damage. All my toes are working. There's no tendons that have been hit. It's not bleeding profusely, it's just bleeding. I didn't have anything with me, no med kits. They were back at the campsite. So I asked the gents to get in their vehicle and just rush and grab my Garmin, my InReach, which was charging, and our vehicle had driven to town to get fuel and water. So our vehicle with our normal med kit wasn't in there, but I had brought with my own personal ones. And they came back with the med kits, but we had a first aid med kit, the really big one. And luckily we had that because all those things that I saw in there were what I was taught in this course. So I grabbed the saline and cleaned my hands, and then took alcoholic wipes and started to wipe everywhere. Did that, cleaned myself up. And I did forget something, which in hindsight I think was okay because of how much alcohol I put in my hands. I forgot to put my gloves on. But I took my gauze and I wet that with saline and then filled the wound because it was quite open. Filled it with that, took the compression bandage, placed that on, and then wrapped myself up. And I before doing that, I'd realized, okay, I'm not bleeding out. There's no massive blood loss. It was oozing out, but it was very deep. So there's a lot of bacteria that can get in there and probably has got in there. So just rinsing it out was my first instinct and what I was taught. And then said to the guys, everyone was sort of in a bit of a panic state, but I said, look, it's not bleeding out. I'm not going to die. We can wait for our vehicle to come back. We sent the guy a message with the inReach because we had no cell service, nothing. The only thing we had to communicate was a little Garmin inReach. So we got him to come back. It was about an hour later he came back, and then once I got in the vehicle, it was a 2.5-hour drive back to Mariba to go and get stitches and get sorted out and get tetanus shots and all the rest. What I think the big takeaway from it was no one else on the shoot had any sort of first aid training. The guy that had the med kit, he had done courses a long time ago, but all the rest of the team had no idea, and everyone was in a panic state. So doing a course like this, everything that I was taught came rushing back instantly. And I'm not saying I knew everything, but I knew what to do in that basic moment of like, okay, assess, stabilize, treat, and then get me out of there to a hospital to figure out, do I need stitches and all the rest of it. I think coming here and doing the course was what got me not to panic and know what to do. So it was a pretty cool experience doing the course and then real world application of that course, and it actually worked. These are the pants that I wore because I've been telling everyone, like, come do this course. Because if anything happens, snakebite or this type of thing, and you don't know what to do, it's a cluster. So we had zero communication. No one else had any communication either. So with these remote first aid courses, I really think they are something that if you are going to be filming in these places and potentially interacting with snakes or there's scrap metal all over the bush. Old things exist. Holes from old trees that have burnt away and they just leave a hole. You put your foot in there and you break your ankle. All sorts of things can happen out in these areas. So doing a course like this, I don't think it's just a nice thing. I think it's a necessity because it's not just about if you get injured, it's about if someone else gets injured and if you can do something about it. And I think having multiple people do these courses, it's so invaluable for going to places like that and filming the things that we film and other types of stuff, the other work that people do. Doing this course is the reason that I was calm and I knew what to do. If I hadn't, I would have had no idea at all of what to do once I look at something like that, because I never had an injury that bad that I can see. I've had a head wound, but I couldn't see it. So I just went to the hospital. It was 10 minutes away. But this, it's 2.5 hours. If I had no idea what to do, I think I just would have shut down and panicked. And then it would have been so much worse. So doing this course made the world of difference to this injury.